Hi guys, today we're going to be going to go ahead and find the volume of a cylinder. Now on my left hand side, I went ahead and drew a cylinder composed of two circles. So you have a circle on the top, a circle on the bottom, and then you have the body of it on the outside. If you want to visualize it better, you could think about it as a can of Coke or can of Pepsi. Now, as you can see, the number 7 stands for the height, but another thing that is important in a cylinder is the radius. So I'm going to go ahead and write it here. So this is my center, and remember the center, the radius is a line segment from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. So let's say that my radius is 4. Now, basically, since I have a circle at the top and a circle in the bottom, what I am basically saying is that these two circles, so the circle on the bottom and the circle that I have here on top, have to have the same radius, right? So if the radius on top is 4, then that means that the radius on the bottom has to also be 4. So if I go ahead and look at it from the top down, I'm gonna notice that I have this shape on top, right? So this is the circle that I have. Now, what we're going to focus on is volume, but this is related to area. So let's go ahead and first see the equation that we have here. It says volume is equal to base of the prism multiplied by the height. In this case, we're working with a cylinder, so it's going to be the area of the base times the height. The base is a circle, so what is the area? So BA, so the area of the base. What is the area of this? Well, if you know that it's 4, so what's the formula for the area? Remember, the formula for the area of any circle is pi r squared, right? So that means that BA is equal to pi. In this case, my r is 4, so that's going to be 4 squared. So BA is equal to 16 pi, right? Now, that's the area. The volume, you have to multiply by the height. Now let's see why this makes sense. So how many cubes can fit inside one of the layers of a cylinder? So in other words, if you think about it, a cylinder is composed of different layers. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. If I go ahead and draw a layer here, you'll notice, so we have something like this. So basically we have cubes inside each layer, right? So we have cubes inside this layer. So this is one layer, and the amount of cubes inside it is about 16 times 3.14. So basically 16 times 3, right? So now you have to go ahead and think about it. So if I have 17 times 3.14, so let's go ahead and find that number. So 16, sorry, I said 17. It's going to be 16. Let's first turn it on. So 16 times, and we click our second, pi is equal to around 50.26. So we have around 50 cubes on the first layer. But how many layers do we have in total? So in total, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the last one 7. So we have a total of 7 layers, right? So we have 7 layers in total. So now, how would I find the total amount of squares that we have? So not the squares, the total amount of cubes. So how many cubes do I need to fill the cylinder? That's the question that volume is asking. How many cubes do I need to fill the cylinder? This is different from area, because area, remember, tells us how many squares are needed to fill the circle. So, but this gives us an idea. So if I know that we have these many squares, then volume is just extending, giving it one more dimension. A square is 2-dimensional. To make it a cube, you just add an extra dimension, right? So you have something like that. So that's exactly what I did. But instead of doing it this way, what I did, I went ahead and moved it up. So I started with my square on the bottom, and then I went ahead and I gave it some height. So hopefully this is making sense. Now, I'm trying to explain it more than it is really necessary, and just because I want to really drive the point that volume is equal to the base times the height. So if at any point you don't remember what the formal definition or the formal formula for volume is, you just try to remember that it's the base times the height. And then after that, you can go ahead and derive it, because the formula that we're going to be using is this one, pi r squared times height. And that makes sense, right? Because pi r squared is our area, and then you just multiply times the height. So let's go ahead and work this out. So volume is equal to pi times r, we said it's going to be 4 squared, and then you multiply at the end the height. Well, in reality, we have volume is equal to 16 pi times h, right? So notice that this goes right over here, because that's the area of the base. And then you just multiply the height, so it's going to be v is equal to 16 pi times 7, because that is my height. And then from here, this you have to put it in the calculator. So you can either do this times 7, or you can do it all at the same time. So I'm actually going to show you how to do it them all at the same time. So do 16, and then we put times pi times 7. So this should give me my the amount of cubes needed to fill the cylinder with a radius of 4 and a height of 7. So I would need a total of 351.85 cubes. So this is going to be 351.85 cubes. Now, in most of our problems, we're going to have to go ahead and round this to the nearest tenth. So to round this to the nearest tenth, we look at the 10th place. The number afterwards is 5 or greater. So that means that this actually is going to go up. So volume is equal to 351.9. And that's going to be my answer. And it's going to be units squared. I mean, not units squared, because square is for area. It's units cubed, because you multiply 3 different dimensions. All right, so now let's go over some quick examples. So the first one, a cylinder has a base radius of 6 feet and a height of 8 feet. What is the volume rounded to the nearest 10th place? So we start by doing these problems by going ahead and drawing a diagram. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a cylinder like this. And now my radius is 6 and my height is 8. Now each one of these is in feet. And now notice that the top circle and the bottom circle that I have here, they have to have the same radius. So it really doesn't matter. The base could be the top or it could be the bottom. All you're basically doing is putting one on top of the other. So now I draw my base. The base that I have for this is actually a circle. So this would be 6. And now, since this is 6, what is the area of this? Because remember, the formula for volume is base times height. Well, the base, or the area of the base, is what? A circle. So that's going to be pi r squared times the height. So this is the formula again. This is the part that you have to remember. Pi r squared is equal to the height, or if you find it more simpler, you can just remember that volume is equal to base times height. And then remember that the base is pi r squared, because that's the area of a circle. So now we have volume is equal to, sorry, I put the parentheses here. It's supposed to be pi. And then my r in this case is 6 squared times my height, which is 8. So volume is equal to pi, and then this is going to be 36, right? Because 6 times 6 is 36, and then times 8, and I can go ahead and put all of this inside the calculator. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So this is going to be second pi times 36 times 8. So that's going to be around 904.77. 904.77. So volume is equal to, well, we round this one by looking at the number next to it, so 904.8. And now remember that this is units cubed, so this is in feet, so this is feet to the third power, or feet cubed. Remember, cube represents feet times feet times feet. Okay, example number 2. A cylinder has a base diameter of 20 feet and a height of 5 feet. What is the volume rounded to the nearest tenth place? So again, we always start by drawing a diagram. So I'm going to draw my cylinder. Now in this case, because the height is 5, I'm going to make it not as tall as the last one. Just like this. And now the key part here is that the diameter is 20 feet. So the diameter, if you remember, that's this part, right? So let's actually do that in yellow. So that's this. So this whole thing is 20. And the height is going to be 5, right? So how is this different from my first example? Well, in the first example, they gave me the radius. In the second example, they gave me the diameter. How is this going to change my problem? Well, I still need to go ahead and write my formula, which is base times height. The base of this cylinder is what? A circle, right? So this is still going to be pi r squared times height. Pi r squared being the area of the circle. So now when I plug in, do I do the following? So do I put 20 squared times 5? No, right? Because the top is a circle, but they gave me the diameter. So this whole thing is 20, but I don't need the diameter. What I need is the radius. So I want the radius. So to find the radius, I have to go ahead and divide this by 2 because the radius is half of the diameter. So my r is equal to 10, and that's the number that I have to use. I have to use the radius, not the diameter. So you need to do an extra step when you're given the diameter and not the radius. So this is going to be V is equal to, well, 10 times 10. Now let's show the whole thing. So that way I can show you why it is going to be feet cubed. So it's going to be 10 feet. Sorry, my pencil's acting up. Okay, so this is going to be 10 feet. Let's do feet in blue. No, let's use a different color. Let's use green. So 10 feet times, again, 10 feet, because square means times 2, and then times, the last part is going to be 5, and then again feet, right? Because the height is also in feet. So that's how we get our 3 feet. That's why it's feet to the cubed power. So this is actually going to go ahead and give me V is equal to 100, or let's just leave them all in the same place. So pi times 100 times 5 feet to the third power. So now this is actually going to go ahead and be used in the calculator. So let's turn this on. We use pi times 100. Well, 100 times 5 is actually 500, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to show you all of the steps. So that's going to give me 1,570.79. 79 feet to the third power. So volume is equal to 1570, and remember we're looking for this number, so this is going to be 0.8, right? Because 9 is bigger, is 5 or bigger. And don't forget the units of 1570.8 feet cubed. So now let's go ahead and look how this will look on your Delta Math. So as you can see, this example or this problem is actually the problem that we just did. So diameter of 20 and the height of 5, and the answer that we got is 1570.8. This is all you have to write down. The meters is already here, meters or feet. In this case, they've used meter instead of feet, but that is okay because you don't need to write down the units for this problem. And that's it for